course, so we gotta. That's what we teach people and help people get to is that they are the answer. I'm not your answer. I'm just your guide.
Yes.
We gotta see because people have to. Well, they don't have to, but if they want to they got to take responsibility for their own selves, and when you can do that, that's it. That's why I'm much happier than I used to be in life because uh it's not what happens to you. Even I'm happy even though I'm going to get a surgery, I'm still happy about life and stuff. And yes, it's going to not be as, it might not be as happy for a while, yet I'll get back to my happiness. So also, it's a good way to reflect and go on to your next whatever your
So
next
we
thing.
ended up going live, and I was still playing
Oh,
around with the views of the camera. So
okay.
so you show up and you're talking, and then it goes to double screen, and then it comes back up. But I
Ah,
think we got it figured out on the new computer.
yay, everybody. Hey, happy new year. It's a new year here. And even there, probably, unless you're in a really weird time zone, I think everybody's already hit the new year.
Yeah, I think the New Year's happened all around the world so
Yeah.
far. We think
Yeah.
we're good to go. Happy New Year,
Yeah.
guys.
Happy New Year all around the world.
Never claimed to be an expert on time zones.
Yeah, so uh, it's going to be a good year. Well,
It's going to be a
going
great
to
year
make
because
it.
you're going to make it a great year.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was about to say. It's your choice to have a good year, and I guess it's your choice not to have one. And yet, on my side, and hopefully Scott's side, we're going to choose because it's a choice. And that's the same with happiness too. Is it is a choice, and it's a skill you can learn. And we teach a lot of stuff throughout the years we've been on this little journey to help people. So if you want to learn a lot, just go back and watch every single thing we've ever done, and you'll have an education of some sort there.
Yeah. The amount of classes Jeff and I have taken to, well, first help ourselves, right? Because that's what they say when you're on an airplane, right? Put your mask on first before you're able to help out others. So, you know, basically we were on a journey to help ourselves. And what unfolded is mounds of information. I tell people that I went to go solve one problem, not realizing that I needed an encyclopedia of information to solve one problem. Because my mind at the time, I thought it was a simple solution, not realizing everything else. Like when you peel the scab, you're like, oh, there's more stuff there. Or kind of like when I had people fix some stuff in my house, right? Like they would tear down the drywall and be like, well, now you got to fix these boards. These boards are warped. Oh, you got to fix this vent. This vent's broken. So that's kind of what it was like on my journey, right? Like I thought it was just the surface problem, but not realizing there was a whole mound of information I had to figure out or learn or even be willing to learn to get past the issue that I was having, not realizing that the answer was way more complicated than what I thought it was when I started out. And I think Jeff started off with saying something about choice. You have to decide that you're the one that makes that choice to accept the new learnings or accept uh, your own personal growth. Like I had a text message yesterday of a DJ that used to work for me that I built up and then he left me, kind of high and dry. And I would always, some of the other team would be like, well, he didn't do anything wrong. I was like, yeah, well, in my eyes, I wasn't. He didn't think he did anything wrong, right? So if I was to allow that type of behavior, then there would, then we'd have issues, right? If I, oh yeah, that's okay, don't do it next time, right? So I had to keep firm boundaries, and then as I did that, the person left, and then it took 2 years, and then the guy texted me back and said, you know what, you've always had my best interests at heart, could we sit down and have a shot, and talk about it, that kind of thing, and that's what I always told the team, and they were like, well if this person doesn't come to the realization that something was done wrong, then that same action is going to continue. It's going to take that own person's personal growth. And I always said if the guy was man enough to apologize, I would be man enough to accept that. So that's basically what happened yesterday which really filled my heart. Like I was like, I've never done anything other than help somebody grow and to be, I always talk about it. You could go through my other videos that I would help other people promote them and then they would just move on and think they did it on their own. And yes, they do it on their own, but they had a little bit of help and I couldn't I felt like I was being used. So if somebody doesn't realize that they're using you, they're going to keep doing it. If you hold your boundaries, they're going to continue down the road and then maybe look back at it after something else happens, or maybe they have their own realization or their own growth. And it meant a lot to me to see that text yesterday.
That's good, man.
Yeah. Because I always said, well, if someone's man enough to apologize, then I'll be man enough to accept it. But if they don't think they did anything wrong, then they're going to keep doing it. So anyway, here we are with the new year, fresh new start. I mean,
Fresh new start, man. What do we, yeah. So, everybody who's listening, think about it today. What, and New Year's resolutions, most of them, 80% of people who do that, they go away. So why don't you make something real, something you're really going to do and stick to it this year, whatever it is. I don't care what it is, but just uh, instead of just doing it for a month, this is what most people do for a month. I want to do this and then they quit. Why don't you do it a little bit different this year? Why don't you just take it easy? Just go in there easily and do it a little bit at a time and make these goals. Go back to where one of our talks we do a well-formed outcome. Basically, what do you want and what are you going to do? And write out a little plan to do that. Uh, Whatever it is this year, we don't care if it's working, or I don't care. Well, Scott could, but, but well, I don't care if you're working on your business or yourself or just helping someone else out. But write out a little plan and stick to it as best you can. And you know, there's a lot of times when you're working towards a goal, you'll find yourself one day it just didn't work, but it doesn't matter. Just get back on the horse and keep on riding and try, because sometimes you got to fall down to get back up, and then you fall down and get back up. It's just like walking. So we're learning to be our best selves every day. So what are you going to do? Just ask yourself one little thing. What are you going to do this year that
well,
it's going to make it
Jeff,
better than last year? Go ahead.
I I haven't done much research on this yet. If I was to look at it from our learnings, I would think that people probably use the word year and they think that's a long time. How about you just work on the day? And then, of course, once you work on a little small bit and then you extend it, that's kind of how, Olympians get world records. They're like, okay, well, I did 1 foot. Okay, can you do 1 foot point one? Okay, you did that.
One foot in front
So
of
you
the
just take
other.
it a little bit at a time. So let's just say, well, I'm going to be good for an hour. All right. And then write down what you want to do. And then maybe the next day it's like 2 hours. And by the time you get 6 months down the road, you're a completely different attitude towards whatever that you're working on. Because some people say year or 5 year plan. Maybe you're not ready to think that far in advance. And you might see somebody else who does have a 5 year plan or a 10 year plan, and oh, I want to do that. Well, you're not seeing how much preparation and how this person grew up and all that other stuff. You just got to work on wherever your best growth spurt will be. And sometimes you got to, it's like training wheels, you got to start small and then work your way big. And I know it's the new year and people are like, oh yeah, I want to, and it's good to have goals. And then if you don't, 6 months down the road, if you've written out your plan and you missed it, at least you know how to self-correct. But if you're not writing anything down, then you won't even know. You'll just be floating up in space. Yeah. And then what are you doing every single day to work on that goal? And as long as you have something to focus on, then you'll be able to head towards it. Now, a lot of people like to talk about what they're running away from. And again, if you're going to run in any direction, you could run into a worse direction. But if you have your focus set on what the goal is and write it out, be specific, tell a friend, write it out 10 times. It goes into your subconscious and it goes what? The reticular activating system, Like the more you focus on whatever that goal is, the more you write it down, the more you'll see it, right? So you bought a camera. Oh my God, I love this Canon camera. Now you see Canon camera advertisements everywhere. Well, what if you took your imagination, your subconscious, your conscious mind, and just focused on, oh, I want money, I want money, I want money. So you'll always see where the where the money is versus like the things that you don't like I don't want to lose this, I don't want to lose that. Just focus on the goal, and then if you also got to understand that the mind doesn't understand negation. So if you're living in a scarcity mindset, worried about all the different things that could happen, that's what your mind's going to be focused on. And the don't part, your subconscious mind doesn't understand, but it'll still focus on the thing that you like. If I said, don't think of a purple elephant, you have to think of a purple elephant in order to exit out. Or if you say, I don't want to lose my house, and then that's what you're going to be focusing on, losing your house. What if you just focus on, I want to pay my bills versus I don't want to lose my house?
So on the
I don't
same
know. There's so many different directions we could go, right?
right. Well, let's go back to the reticulating activating system. Basically, same way that Scott said. What you focus on, you're going to find more of. So we don't really want to focus on what we don't want. We want to know what we don't want so we can move away from it. But whatever you're focusing on, what you don't want or what you do want. So let's focus on what
Oh,
we do want.
here's an exercise.
Okay,
Anytime you use the word don't, what would be the proactive of it?
I will.
Okay, well, we'll just
All
use an example, right?
right.
Like, I don't want to go bankrupt. Instead of saying that, what would you say?
I will go bankrupt.
Oh no, you would say I want to make more money,
Right.
right? Or whatever it is. If you don't focus on the negative, if you were to take that negative and turn it into a positive and just cut out the rest, then just focus on that. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's again like I think that they won't probably know this name, but Bandler would he was saying when you take a test and let's say you got two right out of eight, focus on the two right, not the eight wrong. So let's focus on whatever we're doing right. And then that's the same way with relationships. So focus on some of that good stuff that in your relationship and then reward them with the praise about the good stuff instead of just beating them up on all the bad stuff. Because
and
go ahead.
another thing, since we're on this topic, and it just popped into my mind, I know we could go in different directions. What I've found when talking to people, some people, they get caught up on the word perfect.
Oh, I hate that word.
Yeah. So again, I don't know anybody that's perfect. Nobody's perfect. And that's what a universal quantifier, right?
I think the only thing in the world you can be perfect at as the best you can is work on being the best you each and every day to the ability you have each and every day, and then you can be the best you can be. And again, even if you're not 100% on that one day or 5 days or whatever, you're working on being your best you, and that's the only thing. For years and years and years and years, I thought I had to be perfect, and it never happened, and I was so
So what
sad.
does that do? It
It
adds
did.
stress,
It
right?
did. Well, it also it made it an impossible goal, an impossible goal to be perfect, and it took away my happiness too because I was striving for something that I could never get, and I it's sort of like I'll be happy when.
It creates
Right.
self-worth, a low self-worth.
Right. So I'll be happy when I'm perfect. And the point would be I'll never be perfect. Again, the caveat of that is basically going back to what I said. The only thing you can truly be perfect as being the best you can be. And again, some of those days will slip too. Yet let's just be the best we. And that's the same with everybody every day. If you can do that, then you don't have to live in regret because this in well, I'm not talking about the whole year here, Scott. Let's just do it one day at a time. That's a good thing. These processes go in easy, one step at a time, all these other things. And be kind to yourself, damn it, this year. Jiminy Cricket, there's enough people to beat you in the head. I mean, give yourself a break. Jesus. I mean, it's like you I mean, what good is it doing? Beating yourself because become your own best friend. I do not like somebody who me, yet be okay with yourself. Seriously, this is what I've done from not this, I just changed it, but this year I love and accept myself even though I'm not perfect. And remember, but I didn't have to do that this year. I said I love and accept myself now. I do it 5 times a day, but now I've changed healthy. I've changed my mantra to healthy, wealthy, and wise. See, because I want to be healthy, wealthy, and wise. And the more you say that to yourself, just like you said, the reticulating activating system kicks in and it starts focusing on those things that can bring you that. So focus on the things that give you a better life, whatever that is.
Well, here's a question for you.
Sure.
If you gave it all you got, could you have given it any more?
Uh, yes and no, but probably not. If you're actually working at it, I think it there is a boost you could get if there was fear or a tragedy or something right here that's about to bite you. You'd have a little bit more, but what it would do again, if it, let's just say it was a animal about to attack you and you move away from it, what that adrenaline you could get away from
Well,
it at that time. Go ahead.
well, basically what I was getting at, well,
Okay.
if you had a goal
Uh-huh.
and you gave it all you got and you came up short, right?
Well, at least you
That
were going
that's
towards a purpose.
that was all that you had. Like nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
Like you couldn't have given any more. So
Right. So you get up and do it again.
yeah.
I
and
mean, you
and there's
just keep on
another
focus and go
there's
forward.
another part of that too where sometimes people let other people's judgment or maybe judgment of themselves because they didn't reach it. But if you gave it all you got, you could still sleep at night because you let it all out, right? There's no more you could have done. Like if it didn't happen, it wasn't meant to be, But if you gave it all you got, then that's it. Kobe Bryant, said something like that. Well, if you lay it all out on the floor, I mean, they'll have to accept you for whoever you are, but don't hold anything back because if you go to sleep at night, you're going to be wondering whether or not that would have happened or not, like the regret, right?
Right. So the two types of regret we go back to the one of the things you did do and the one of the things you didn't do. So what I say on my side, I'm not going to keep on talking for Scott here.
Oh no.
No, but what I say on my side is that the regret of not doing something is a worse regret because you don't know. And the things you do and did turn out perfect. Now you know, you learn from it and then you build on it to do it better next time. So the I think the worst regret is the one that you didn't do what you wanted to do because you're too afraid.
Well, the thing is with me was when I broke away from my talent agency was that if I ended up homeless in a cardboard box, but I had given it all I got, I would be okay with that. Because
I'm moving in.
yeah, no, seriously, if I gave it all I got and that's the results that I got from it, well, then at least I know where I stand and what I can do to correct it. And then if anybody were to pass judgment on me, what would I care to begin with? But number two, they weren't walking in my shoes and realizing what I had to go through because your feelings are your own, right? Your way that you see the world is all yours. So own it. And if you're looking to get higher up, I know we'd love to talk to you. You could set up a Zoom call with us and we can, talk you through a few things if you need to, right? Because it's like I was going back to what I was saying earlier. Like I thought it was one answer. It's an encyclopedia of answers.
Oh
You
my
know,
God.
and then everybody is in their own part of the spectrum, right? Like, and we're just good at using language patterns and correcting thought processes to align you with what you're looking to do, right? So it all just depends on where you're at and if you're willing to accept that you're going to have to change the way you think to change the results that you get, right?
Right.
What does
Let's go back
Wayne
to
Dyer
that.
say?
The definition of insanity is doing the same exact thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. So whatever you're doing and you want something different, you're going to have to change something. So we always say change it to the positive. Yet Here's another thing. I was talking to somebody just the other day. It's basically, I mentor a lot of people, and one was wheels in motion, tend to stay in motion. So I'd say, even if you do something that's not exactly right, you're still in motion and you can turn around and go back and you're still going faster than you would if you're doing nothing. If you're doing nothing right now, if you're doing
You
nothing
have
every
no
day,
data to
you'll
analyze.
never go.
But
You'll
you
never
don't have any
go.
data to analyze. If you do a bunch of things and it all
Right,
messes up, you can look at the dots and be like, okay,
right.
well, now you have information to look at.
And then you can go back just as quick. But if you don't go anywhere, if you do nothing and you just stagnant, you gotta, well, I hate to say got to,
Hey,
but
easy.
yeah, you might want to get off your tushy and go do something. And that's still, and you don't have to go all the way. Like, what do I want to accomplish the entire year? The one good thing about that though, Scott, is if you put it what you're shooting for, even if it's not in range, you can get closer and closer to it till you get it. So it's because when you have something, let's say in 2 years I want to do this, you can figure out what that is, and then you can map yourself backwards all the way to your now and what is the steps, so you can figure out what's the steps you have to do. Is it in, again, back to the well-formed outcome. Can you do it by yourself or do you need help? And a lot of times, like for us, we had to get a lot of help from our teachers. We've gone through so many.
Some good, some bad.
Yeah, well, we learned. We learned. I mean, man, you can just go to the website and see how many people I've studied under, and same with you, and going where we're going. And
And remember, good and bad is based on your perspective.
right. And another thing, what I would like to throw in, what we were getting around, is everybody has their own map. Everybody sees the world through their own eyes. And sometimes, if you want a little bit more perspective, you can say, what would that person think, what do I think, and what would a little bird on the wall think. So you can start getting in a different dimension where you're thinking a little bit more than just one-sided, because most of the time it's not true. You think, oh, everything's bad, but all we got to do is flip it.
So think of it like this. If you haven't done any, what we call it in the industry is called change work, right? So do you want to change the way you're thinking to get different results, or maybe you're not happy, but you don't even know why? I used to talk to a narcissist and just leave feeling horrible and not even know why. I just knew it wasn't what I liked, right? So if you haven't done any change work, you have a certain set of tools that you use for problem solving. When you start getting coaches, NLP, hypnosis, whatever your goals are, then you start getting more tools. The more tools you have, the more you can analyze a situation, and then you're able to move forward. But most people, they'll get frustrated because they're not conscious enough to understand a bigger picture. That kind of thing. Same thing back to the text message I got on yesterday, where I was explaining this stuff to somebody and they had a certain set of tools and they weren't even ready to accept the information that I was sharing willingly, right? So if you're not at the point to accept those tools, then you're not going to understand until you've walked down that path, which is fine because we all have our own path of personal growth. And all I'm saying is if you need some help, understanding more tools, how language patterns work, different exercises that you can do. We know a ton of NLP, uh, internet marketing, hypnosis, and just realize you have all that information because your conscious mind. What do they say? 5 to 7 bits of information.
Five plus or minus two.
Five plus or
So,
minus two of information. So your conscious mind, let's say, gets this much information. Your subconscious mind is unlimited.
oh my God, yeah, just so much. But you can only get it little bits at a time, and that's why a lot of times
Oh yeah, we could drop everything on you, but it would take a second for that to mature, grow, seed, flourish.
here's a little example. If you want to know your reticulating activating system, you can do it with color, or you can just go into a room, and some room in your house, and when you first walk in, notice everything you can and then shut your eyes and then come back and notice everything you can. Each time you'll see different things. And I like to explain this too, because if you were, let's say you were a chef, or if you were a fireman or a policeman or any of those things, when they walk into a building, or a room, they're going to look at, or an artist or whatever, they're going to look what they believe is important. Firemen might like look at exits if there was a fire. Automatically, they're going to do this because they're trained to do that. And same way with everything else, an artist is probably going to look at the art on the wall. A chef will look at your knives and food, and so you're walking around the same way. What's important to you, you see more of. And when something else, the reticulating activating system, like he said, when you see a camera or buy a camera, now there's cameras all around and you didn't notice them before. So, so let's focus on the things we want. I know I'm going around in a circle here,
There's
but it's
another
the
way to look
same
at that
thing.
too. So again, you experience the world through your senses,
Right.
right? Sights,
Oh, yeah.
smell. So you're going to notice things like, okay, and then everybody has their comfort zone, right? Some people use their feelings as their comfort zone. Some people like to experience the world through their visual. Not that you can't access any of these things giving certain stimuli, right? So that's kind of how it's developed, right? You may walk into a room and all you do is see stuff. Another person could walk in the room and all they hear the cracks in the door, or another person's like, oh yeah, they're oh, this chair is comfortable, or the temperature, So you just have a comfort zone. So imagine if you walk into a room and then you tried to use or worked on using your other senses to experience the room differently. And then as you start to do that, more and more doors or windows will just open up for you because you're now training your mind in a different way.
Right. So most people, almost all people, but not all of them, will have the five senses. And sometimes, some people don't have sight, some people can't hear. Well, when you know that statistically, when they can't hear, they see better, and when they don't see better, or they could have all that stuff. But usually, you'll find the senses that works for you. And if you want to actually expand your life, work on the senses that's not real apparent now. Me, I think I'm visual auditory.
Man, you are confusing.
I am confusing. I
Anybody
know.
who's a juggler and uses their body and talks fast, because you talk fast, that makes you visual, but you
Yeah.
have to use your body to perform, right? So, but you don't act like a kinesthetic. I don't think. Like
Well,
kinesthetic
I
people.
think, well, after
Oh,
juggling for
are
so
you
many,
really good at turning off and on when it's time, I guess. I don't
well,
know. You know
I
how,
don't know.
okay, so here's another thing. If you're juggling, that actually creates connections between your left and right hemisphere.
Right. The gray area in your
Yeah,
mind.
people that are ambidextrous,
Yeah, I
right?
got it. Using both hands.
Yeah. So that unlocks another power.
Right. It's all also bilateral stimulation. So you're using both parts. When you're juggling, you're going back and forth, or if you're doing like a poi or nunchucks or all those things. uh, I don't know why I'm throwing that in, but basically,
You just want to move your hands around.
because there's kinesthetic there, but visual. I talk real fast, and I'm also audio. I hear, and that's how I learn the best is hearing. I hardly ever read anything. I just don't.
So I would just say after years of working all these things, it becomes confusing for me. I'm really good at like watching somebody, listening to somebody, and telling you what category they fit in. Jeff's Tharpo is really good at all of them, or the main three, right? So that takes years of training to get there. Most people, when you talk to them, I get, oh yeah, that's a visual person, or that's an auditory person, or that's a kinesthetic person. Like I'm really good at picking it out. Jeff's everywhere. I don't know. You said you had ADHD or
I believe, well, I was dyslexic, or I guess I still am somehow, but dyslexic and ADHD, all that. And what that actually does for me, with dyslexia, you have hyper focus, so you can focus on anything at a given time. And then the other one is it just makes me hyper. You can tell I'm hyper anyway. And but it really works good because I'm an entertainer for 40 years. So just it just I can think of three other things to say while I'm saying something. So it's like bing, 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 bing.
Is that visual or auditory when it comes in?
That's a good question. I still say I haven't even thought about that. I should have after all these studies for all these years.
So yeah, if you could come up with three jokes while saying one joke,
Yeah.
like how
I,
is how is that
I'm not
materializing?
sure how that is materializing because I'll be doing a joke and then my unconscious mind picks and makes up a joke. So almost every one of I do improv shows. This is all. So I do improv shows, and 25% I'd say of my is new, not always new material, but something different because I work off the crowd. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Howie Mandel. He's still an entertainer, but he used to do improv. He worked mostly off the crowd, and I just work off whatever people say. And I studied a lot.
Well, if you're working off what people say, is it auditory?
Yeah, I told you that's how I learned auditory.
Oh, but your jokes when they materialize?
They're gonna still be audio right here. I'm gonna say something, but here's the part that listens is not the part that talks. So that's why we sometimes you ever get in a conversation where you get an argument and said, "That's what you said." I didn't say that. Yes, you did. You said this. I didn't say that. You said, "Yes, you did." And I said, "Well, even if I said that, this is what I meant." And the point there is actually sometimes your conscious and your unconscious, the hearing and the speaking doesn't connect as much. So it's the same way. Your unconscious mind is what writes too. So when you're writing, your unconscious mind is writing. So that's where we come up with hand writing analysis. So if 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 get somebody a sheet of paper and tell them to write something about before you like it, what I used to do when people were coming into my office to get hypnotized, I'd have them sign all the little waivers and stuff, and I could tell just by if the writing went up that they were optimistic about our session going to happen, and if they and if they didn't think it was going to go well, you could just tell that downline. So it's good good
And
information.
Mike Mandel has a whole class on calligraphy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, and
I
then
I haven't actually purchased it, but he inside of my group he has two or three videos and he explains a bunch of stuff.
it is
It's a,
really cool. And the T's, if just a little bit, if you guys wherever you're crossing your T's, see if they're up or down. If you're crossing your T way up, a lot of times that means good self-esteem. But if you go way down here at the bottom, you
oh my goodness.
isn't that funny? I won't do this. It's not.
Oh
I'm
no,
not
I mean we could go in any direction.
yeah.
You just made me think of a run-in I had at Starbucks yesterday. So I was on the phone with one of my DJs, and the guy behind me, he oh, you're a DJ? I used to run a DJ company. And then he goes, "Oh, I work for iHeartRadio." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then I asked him something. He's like, "Oh, I don't have a DJ company anymore." And I said, "Well, how'd you get out?" And he did this and started looking down and then started digging up stuff. Like, "Oh yeah, I'm an influencer." "Well, tell me more about it." And then like
Oh, so he's pulling his information from
I don't know. Like, I think he wasn't prepared for me to ask those questions. So what he was saying may have not have been true, or he wasn't confident about it. And he was, and I was like, I was gonna give him a card or something, but the body language I got off this guy, and he's the one that started the conversation. And I was like, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna leave you
that
right
almost
there.
sounds like somebody on the spectrum a little bit.
I don't know, but I don't know if he was on the spectrum, but like he just started looking down, looking at his phone, not talking to me, doing like. Maybe
Oh,
I'm probably like over exaggerating a little bit, but
yeah.
like,
Well, maybe he was intimidated. That
yeah, I
sounds
mean,
like intimidation because uh, because if he wasn't, for instance, he would probably bring his head up and look you closer to the eyes. But when people bow down, and this is in general, I'm not going to say everybody, this is not a universal qualifier. so, so when you don't look at somebody in the eye, a lot of times it's because you don't have the self-worth that you're worthy to talk to them. So a lot of times in business, they say, look them straight in the eye and give them a good firm handshake.
Sure.
Yeah.
I
But
mean, his body language was screaming unconfident.
that, and, he said, I used to, remember?
Yeah. And then
So I
I
used
pried
to.
a little bit. I was like, well, maybe I know somebody in town. And then he said, oh, I wasn't in town. And then I'm like, okay, what do you do now? Oh, I'm a Disney influencer. I was like, okay, tell me about that. How'd you go from owning a DJ company to being a Disney influencer? And maybe he is. Maybe he's super big. I have no idea. But the body language was like, I'm gonna get away
Yeah.
from
I, again, okay, guys, we don't know what it's, so we're not saying we know because we didn't study this enough
yeah,
to,
I was too
judge this
busy to
person.
ask any more
But another
questions.
thing, it could have been like he said that when you claim something, okay, I claim that I look, uh, I'm a movie star, which I'm not, but I can say I've been in movies. I was in 8 movies and 13 commercials. So I can say even, and I do have a theater degree and won a scholarship. Yet when I say I was in movies, I was in movies, but I wasn't a star. I was like in just a background kind of situation. And then when somebody says, "Oh yeah, I was," and then he comes up with a rank. He says, "Yeah, I remember that sitcom. I was that boy." And you go, "Oh shit." Well, I, okay. Let's just say I was a background in those movies. I wasn't one of the leads. And it's like that could be something like he's saying because he says because I used to be. And you could used to be anything. Now, here's the thing I do say, and
You
it's
used to
true,
be anything.
right? So somebody said, "Why don't you do handstands anymore?" I said, I used to be able, and I did. I could walk across a whole basketball court on my hands. And then after doing that for many years, I got where I had to give up handstands or give up juggling, but I was making money juggling. So I gave up handstands. And now I probably can't do a handstand because I haven't done them. And also I have a pinched nerve. But now that is a used to, that is true. Yet, you know, that's just a bragging route. See how old I
It
am.
was
When
it
I
was
was a kid, when I was a kid.
well, anyway, I have another call in 5 minutes, so
Okay,
I'll
okay.
make sure to
Hey,
share this on the Facebook
happy
group.
New Year, everyone. And
Happy New
be
Year.
your best you. Be your best you this
This
year.
information we did today, keep like take it to heart, seriously.
Yeah, seriously, be your best you in
One day at a time.
one
Don't
day
get
at a time.
overwhelmed by a year. I mean, a
Yeah.
year is good. I mean, that's a great goal. One day at a time. Alrighty, guys. We'll
All
catch you on the
right.
next one.